Welcome to the Good Neighbors of Texas podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. I'm your host, Ron Holt. Welcome to episode number 8 of the Good Neighbors of Texas podcast. Today, we are glad to be sitting down with James Ringel and Jimmy Brymer with Ringel and Brymer Law. It's good to be here with you.
Pleasure to be here with you, Ron.
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Now, one thing it says on your website, it says at Ringel and Brymer, we place honesty and integrity as core values of our practice, and you can trust us to go above and beyond to help you achieve an amazing outcome in a timely manner. And so rather than me unpacking everything, I'd like to just kind of start with asking you how or tell us about your business and what does business law encompass and its importance to business owners?
Sure. Here at Ringle and Brymer, business law means a lot to us, right? It includes things like helping you draft and review your contracts to make sure that you have all of your business dealings in a way that benefits you especially and helps protect you and your business. And then, it also means sort of the flip side of that is if something goes wrong, we have businesses that call us and have us help them out through disputes, whether that's you've already been sued or it hasn't quite gotten there, but you've got some unhappy customers.
And that could happen quite readily, right?
Yes. Another thing we do that maybe isn't exactly law, but a lot of our clients enjoy that we do is act in an advisory position in their businesses. They ask us, hey, should we go for an S Corp or a C Corp? This employee's doing this. How should I handle it? We really act in a capacity to make sure when they do retain us, they have us in that advisory position, that it doesn't get to the level where we have to sue them. Hopefully, we can resolve it before then. An example of that would be a lot of negotiated buyouts we do for some of our businesses.
And so that, I think, ties into, like you mentioned on our website, we talk about honesty and integrity. If a client's in a bad spot, we tell them, look, this is the spot that you're in, or this is the best way to handle it, even if that's maybe bad news for the client. We think it's important that they fully understand exactly what kind of a situation they're in and what their options are.
That's great. Let me ask you something. What do you find most rewarding about what you do?
Honestly, when clients, this may sound like silly, but when clients say, look, you guys are really the reason that our business is doing so well, or you guys are our hero, we've had them say that, or got them out of a steep hole when they thought that they were SOL. So generally hearing that we made a good difference in someone's life is usually what, makes us happiest.
Yeah, I totally agree. There are times where a client comes in and they're like, oh my God, this guy's falling down. I'm in this horrible situation. And we get the opportunity to help them kind of realize either the situation's not that bad, or we help them find a way out of it that doesn't sort of lead to this catastrophic outcome that they're imagining in their heads.
Yeah, that's great. Can you tell our listeners what inspired you to get into business law in the first place? That's a unique field of practice, right?
It is. And we don't say corporate law for a reason. We don't do corporate compliance with certain federal regulations or securities actions. What we do is really helping your average small to medium-sized business navigate the legal world and have proper business practices in place. But James, do you want to start with our story of how we met to say what drew us into business law? Because it's a pretty good story.
Sure, yeah. So we like to tell the story in two parts, kind of. It started as I had graduated law school and applied around for jobs and wound up at a general practice kind of firm here in Bastrop, and worked there for a little less than a year and decided, hey, I'm kind of doing a pretty good job at this place. I could just run my own office at this point. So I went and started out on my own, and as I was heading out, Jimmy was hired as my replacement.
Yeah. I started a whole week after he left. So I started working there, and I worked there for a few days shy of a year. But while I worked there, I didn't notice beforehand, but I had a lot of clients that I was bringing in, kind of all right time, right place. And I just really thought, I have these clients, why don't I just go start my own firm? It's enough to start a base on my own. So that's what James and I did. We met through the bar association in town. We're the only two attorneys that are below the age of 40, 50. And we just decided to go into business together. And it's been in the black ever since.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, and then we kind of, because of Jimmy's connections with all kinds of assorted business people and bringing them in, we also realized that it's kind of just an underserved market or group here in Bastrop County. That there wasn't really any other attorneys here that focus a lot on business. There's, I think, one or two attorneys that regularly do some business law aside from us, and either overworked or just trying to slow down their practice. And so we realized there's just, and Bastrop's growing. It's growing and growing. Businesses they're opening all over the place now here. So we realized that this could be a really good spot for us to situate ourselves in.
How does that help business? Okay, so before you guys showed up on the scene, right, here in Bastrop, a lot of businesses were without any kind of guidance, any kind of help. Have you seen a big change in just being involved in your area in businesses and helping them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we really see is a lot of, we kind of got two things we see. The first one is they didn't have a business attorney, and they were, for example, you represent a lot of contractor construction companies. They were kind of just having agreements that they drew up themselves that are rather short and concerning.
Making a lot of mistakes, I'm sure.
Yeah, so we helped them kind of get on the level and be able to compete, because a lot of these construction or contractors, they were kind of getting too big to just do everything in Bastrop, so they're starting to go into Austin and Houston. So we helped them with that. The other option, if they were served, they were going to Austin. And while Austin isn't dramatically far away, they tend to charge a lot and not have the personal touch that a firm here in Bastrop would. So they were usually, if I had $1 for every time they've heard, you guys do business law? We've been going to, what's the big one called, James? Scott Walker, or I forget what it's called. It's called Walker and something.
Oh, Walker Johnson.
Yeah.
Walker and Johnson, I think.
Big one for companies like Tesla level. And if I had $1 every time I heard that, and they go, whoa, there's someone here in town that will take my calls. No, I'd have a lot of dollars.
Yeah. And that, I think, is one of the other things that I think is sort of different about us versus some of the other attorneys around here, is that because we focus on businesses, we try to encourage our clients and potential clients, just the business community really, to be more proactive. A lot of the attorneys around here were very sort of reactive. They wouldn't advise these businesses on what to do to avoid getting sued, or how to have your contracts so that it's more clear and you're less likely to be sued. Instead, these attorneys are basically coming out after the fact. The business gets sued, and then they're running into the attorney and saying, I'm being sued, I need help. And the attorney helps with that, but then doesn't set them up to help avoid that kind of situation in the future.
Yeah. Does that lead to, is it beneficial to have an attorney on retainer?
We get that question a lot. It really just depends on that firm's margin and budget. If, for example, we have one client, he's a mid-sized political consulting firm and canvassing, but for him, he has lots of small little issues that if we were just to have a you pay as you call us, that would run up his bill. But he pays a flat fee with us, where he calls us about every other day with a few questions, taking about 10 to 15 minutes of our time. That way, everyone kind of works out better for us. So it really just depends. If it's a company with wide margins and a lot of liability, it's probably good to have us on there just to provide just some level of comfort and proactiveness, because our prices generally aren't expensive just for stuff like that, reviewing contracts, answering small questions. So it really just depends, honestly. But I would say most companies probably should have some small level of that.
Yeah, I think, like Jimmy mentions, it really comes down to the budget you have and how often you have legal stuff come up.
Yeah.
Some businesses are more likely to have legal needs popping up more consistently, and some businesses, you get legal issues that pop up twice a year, and that's it. So in those cases, I don't know that it's worth having an attorney on a retainer, kind of like we have some of our clients, but it certainly helps to have an attorney that you know and trust, who you can call when these issues pop up once or twice a year.
But being local, being personal, you're able to respond a lot faster anyway, right? Even if they're not a retainer, you're very quick in responding to their needs, right?
Yeah. I mean, I tell the client, look, if I didn't respond to the email, just straight up call the office and set a time to talk with me.
Yeah, that's good.
I try not to be hard to get a hold of. My clients I do a lot of business with, I just give them my cell phone. I usually respond pretty quickly to them.
That's great. Can you tell us about any myths or misconceptions you hear in your line of work, in your practice, that come up all the time that might be helpful?
I think the big one is it's sort of a misconception that comes from a nugget of truth, which is that attorneys are too expensive. And attorneys can definitely be expensive.
Especially in Austin.
Especially in Austin.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have to consider when you're talking about the cost of an attorney, if you pay an attorney $500 to review a contract or negotiate a little bit, it could save you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the double-edged sword is, you have to pay a little bit money up front, but for your business, really, there's usually a return above whatever you've paid. And so I think that's one common misconception. Like, why am I going to go pay a lawyer? They're too expensive. I can do it all myself.
I guess along with that is, what does it cost you not to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in high risk fields, like coming back to construction, but it's pretty good kind of base level. But you don't have a good contract and your home collapses and kills someone, you don't have a good contract in place, then or good business. A lot of these, sadly, before us, a lot of them didn't even have businesses. They were DBAs, which I highly don't advise you ever do.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really boils down to, you're going to have to pay something, but I think it saves you money as a business owner for sure, whether that's because you got a better deal on something or you protected yourself from some kind of liability.
Another thing that I've heard as a myth is, as it relates to contracts, are a lot of people are like, well, look, they're my brother that I'm doing business with. They're my mother's less common. My brother, my cousin, my best friend. I trust them. And I go, that's cool. I've heard that before. But even let's say that doesn't happen. If there's a disagreement in place and not a good contract, it's real easy to say, well, you said this, you promised that. Well, I promised this and I promised that. And that itself can often be the catalyst for litigation or explosion or destruction of the relationship. I mean, I've seen so many friendships ruined from that, where if you have a awesome contract in place, for example, if James and I were selling 1,000 widgets and I said, well, you promised to me to get 500 green widgets, 500 blue, I could always go back to the contract and say, oh, no, we had it in place. Or the contract kind of acts, it's well written. Not well written, sometimes it worsens it. If well written, kind of acts as an arbiter in and of itself. You can say, look, we may have said this, but the contract says this. We can always go back to this. I was the president, you were the VP, so that's why this happened.
It can come across kind of impersonal, right? A contract. People don't like that word contract, but what you're saying is it's really you're protecting relationships. And because you value the relationship and respect the relationship so much, you put some guidelines and some rails in place to help everybody not ever get into a place of misunderstanding, right?
Exactly. You can put rails in there or rules that if something happens, you have to do X. Otherwise, you normally wouldn't have to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool for making sure that everyone's on the same page, because then all the expectations are very clearly laid out if it's well written.
If it's not well written, it can be the opposite.
Now, I know there's a lot of new businesses coming into our town, right? What would you say to somebody brand new in business? When should they seek out help, business law, attorney, guidance, counsel in the very formation of it, or at what point would it be a good idea for them to reach out?
So I would say that's a bifurcated answer. If they're going to do anything that's kind of high skill or really where they're making that their life, they should really talk to us immediately so we can make sure they're good from the start. Yeah. That should be part of what your initial loan you're getting should cover, that to make sure your LLC is filed properly, or if it's a corp, most of them are LLCs. Your LLCs and your contracts are good from the start, because we've had clients that came to us after they started and their LLCs either weren't good or they signed a contract at the beginning and it caused their whole business to collapse afterwards because we couldn't save them from that contract.
Wow.
Put them under onerous terms when you can only salvage what happened. So I mean, if someone's starting a business where they're selling trinkets or doing paintings, maybe you get a little bit bigger and then come to us and we can help set up your LLC. But if you're starting an accounting firm, a car washing company, a bakery, anything like that, it's good to have your basics set.
That's good.
Yeah. And definitely, I think the more people you have involved in your business, the more important it is to come to an attorney sooner rather than later. I mean, if you're opening your business just by yourself, and like Jimmy said, it's some small little thing, you're making some little jewelry or something to sell on Etsy or at the farmer's market or something.
Not your full-time job, just a side hustle.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it's a lot less important to come to us right away. But if you're going into a business with 3 or 4 other people to do stuff like building dog houses and selling them, that's probably a lot more important that you come and talk to us. So then you have everybody on the same page. You have the business set up the way it should be. You have contracts with people if you're making custom dog houses that are good, solid contracts.
That's good.
But yeah, it depends. Definitely always generally advise sooner rather than later before you have a problem.
We even had clients that got pretty big and their fundamentals were shoddy. Their contracts they signed were all personally guaranteed, and it can just rip down your business no matter how big you get. If you're legally unsound at the base of it, one wrong turn, you may not even know you violated the contract because the contract was 300 pages and from a major corporation. But
wow,
those major corporations can really come after you if you're a mid-small size company and try to drive you into the ground.
Wow. That's good. That's good advice. Tell us, what do you enjoy doing in your free time when you're not practicing law? What do you do?
James, go first.
I like to do some reading now and then. Haven't done as much these days. Tired of reading at work all day. Do that. Spend time and relax with my girlfriend or go see my family if it's around those times.
Is your family close?
Right now, they still live in Las Vegas, although some of them are planning on moving out here in the near future.
I want to live with
that. Would be great.
Sometimes when the weather's nice, when it's not 95 degrees with 80% humidity, go for a walk or a hike or something. Enjoy some of the beautiful nature that we have out here in Central Texas.
Oh, yeah.
So what do I like to do? I like to travel, go hunting when the season is proper, hang out with my wife and kids, try new stuff in Austin. There's always a new hip happening restaurant to try. Hang out with my friends, do politics, fairly active in that. Just be involved in my community. I'm a little too over-involved now.
That's awesome. And we were talking earlier, speaking of being involved in some politics perhaps, but can you share a success story where legal guidance and your advice benefited a business significantly?
Yeah, this is probably our greatest story just because not even us thought it would go this well. Quite honestly, surprised that it went this well. I mean, I thought it would go pretty good, but it's not this well. So we do a lot of work for political consulting and canvassing firms, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of mid-sized ones.
Wow.
A few of the bigger ones. And it was about a year ago, and a minor presidential candidate, fairly minor, was trying to get on the debate stage, and he had our client to about shy of $1 million in receivables for him.
Wow.
And then he tried to defraud our client that amount, not pay it because he said he didn't have the money. He was a billionaire, so I didn't believe that. So my friend brought this client to us who's been a lifelong client since and loves us, said, hey, you need to help him out. So we sent a letter. We got a response that morning. And they said, okay, we'll have the money to you by 4. Our client said, no, we're going to go to the media if they don't get it to us by 1. Yep. They then wired it about 30 minutes later, about 12:30, and sent us proof. So from stem to stern, it's about, 18 hours, 17 hours?
18 hours, 17
Thereabouts, yeah, maybe 20.
And the whole amount was wired, and clients were paid. Otherwise, it would have ruined their business.
Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of that, like you mentioned, it was a little under $1 million. And a lot of that money that our client was owed was meant to pay other people. They had subcontractors and vendors and things like that they were supposed to pay. And those people were getting kind of antsy with not having their money either.
Yeah.
So it could have been pretty disastrous for our client.
You definitely went on down the debate stage then. So it was just astonishing that happened that quickly. That's not the norm, everyone. We generally can't get you $1 million in less than 18 hours.
You're definitely not promising that, right?
Yes. It helps if they're a presidential candidate who wants to get on the debate stage quite desperately, but it generally takes a few weeks.
That's got to feel really good, though.
Yeah. It was our first case together, too.
Yeah, that's true. Our first real case together, yeah.
We had just joined up, and I think there's a few days in, and my friend said, I got this case for you, and we said, okay.
That's wonderful. What is one thing that you would say, this is important that you know about us? What is that?
I mean, there's a lot. I think one of the big ones is we've heard a lot of people who have experience with other attorneys, aside from complaining about the cost, it's the responsiveness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of attorneys are just not very responsive. You'll call their office every day for a month and maybe not hear back sometimes. And I think that's one thing that does really set us apart from a lot of these other law firms is that we call our clients back or email them back. We try and make ourselves really available for our clients within reason. I mean, I'm not telling the clients to call me on Christmas morning.
We have had clients call me on holidays or vacations.
Yeah, we do have some good clients we bend the rules for, but for the most part, but within business hours, I mean, we really try and be responsive.
That's good.
We're never afraid to they call the office and say, hey, can I talk to Jimmy or James about the status of my case? 8 out of 10 times, we'll say, yeah, just patch him through. I'll talk to him. I'll tell him what's going on with the case and what the next steps are.
Have that peace of mind too. Sometimes you just need to know where we're at and kind of settle things and for the client, right?
Yeah. And I would say I agree with James. As someone who has used attorneys myself on business deals or real estate transactions, I really hated the fact that I would talk to their paralegal majority of the time. I had specific legal questions for the attorney, and I'd have to set up a call a week out. I mean, I generally will talk to them. If I can't talk to them then, they can usually be scheduled within the next day or the same day.
That's great.
So we really try to be responsive. We really try not to be the stuffy, shirted, what is that the proper term? Stuffed shirt, with the arrogant, too good to talk to someone attorney. We really try to be accessible and relatable. And I think myself especially is one of the things that a lot of clients like about me is I don't talk down to them. I try to make them feel better and personalize it. But we really try to be there for our clients, especially when they're good to us or just easy to deal with.
Well, they're your neighbors, right? We're in the same community. We live together in the community, and I love how personal you are and relational and accessible. It's important.
That's what I tell clients. If I haven't responded quickly enough to your email, just give a call and set up a time to come talk to me.
Yeah.
That's great.
And you're right. It is so much about the community. I mean, everything, especially in communities like here in Bastrop, I mean, everything's kind of connected in one way or another. They know them or their business relies on that business. And so it really is kind of, you help one person and it sometimes I think has a domino effect and winds up helping other businesses and other people in the community too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, some of our best businesses comes from referring. I mean, James and I take a real active effort. James has only been around 2 years and we've only partnered for coming up on a year here in August, but we really try to give back to the community. I mean, we're sponsoring the Cedar Creek basketball team and the Bastrop High School football team. So we really try to sponsor events that we think are good for the community or wherever we can help, honestly. We just don't want to be those corporations that doesn't take care of its people or its employees.
That's really good.
I think that's another thing that sets us out from a lot of law firms, especially in this county, maybe not Austin because they have all the money, but we really try to make sure our employees are paid the best in the county and receive pretty good health care. I mean, there's one other firm I believe in the county that offers health care, but
really?
Yeah, we cover all of our employees' health care.
So that's why they all have smiles on their faces when I come into your
That's right.
practice, right?
I thought they were just happy to see you, Ron.
Maybe both, right? I love their staff. They're really great.
Yeah, we're happy with them. We enjoy having them work here.
That's great. That's great. Well, it's been a pleasure sitting down talking with you and unpacking your story a little bit and getting to know you. How can listeners learn more about you or contact you, or what would they do to stop by?
Sure. We're trying to work out a purchase of a new office space.
Oh, really?
So that's
Downtown.
exciting if
Wow.
that works out.
You got a really nice place here too, I must say, but that's great.
Thanks. Yeah, this is nice, but we're growing, and so
Yes.
this place is getting a little bit cramped.
Hiring our
for
first
us.
associate too.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. But in the meantime, you can go online, go to our website. It's ringlebrymerlaw.com. Give us a call at 512-409-3342. And we're always happy to talk to clients, potential clients, just somebody who's got a question.
We have an answer.
Hopefully.
Or if we don't, we'll refer you to someone who does.
That's right. I love it. And you won't soft pedal anything. You're just tell it like it is, tell the truth, and be honest, but in a gracious way, I should say. Well, thank you again, Jimmy and James, for this time. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbors of Texas podcast. To nominate your favorite local business to be featured on the show, go to goodneighborsoftexas.com. That is goodneighborsoftexas.com. We look forward to connecting good people with great businesses.